I'll probably mention the new parts that have come in from the factory. Well, they're all fitted and good to go. I hope they do the trick.
Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of my F1 2019 career mode. This is a moment from F2 practice, and the reason I'm showing this is watch the left rear wheel of this car as we had a bit of a coming together. I've never seen that happen before. I've never seen a rear wheel that far away from where it should be in the F1 game. Normally they're stuck on like concrete, so that's a bit of a weird thing that I saw, and this is a totally separate moment where I just had a bit of a spin. So in the Formula 2 I was having a little bit of trouble getting up to speed from those two moments. The other one I was just redoing the track awkwardly. But anyway, we'll get to Formula 2 later.
Congratulations on your success in the Invitational event. It might not help you in the championship standings, but it definitely helps to build your reputation.
That was for the Invitational event we did last time. But yeah, took a while to get up to speed in Formula 2 in practice, but I got there eventually. And in Formula 1 though, I was up to speed very quickly, and there wasn't really too much to show from practice, so we will just get straight into qualifying. But first we'll just have a quick look at the R&D, because we do have some upgrades for this weekend. We've got I think a major upgrade on the chassis side, so that should really help us through the corners, and it jumps us up the order on that tree. So that's the improvement we need to see, and we now have a car that is competitive all round. But look on the chassis side, if you just saw there, Williams is actually ahead of us, so they've had some major improvements on that side. On the aero they're still nowhere, so I'm not expecting too much from them. But with the Mercedes engine and now one of the better chassis in the field, I'm expecting that yeah, they should be in amongst it. But yeah, they still need to work on the aero, and they're still behind Toro Rosso, but only just. So they're making huge inroads throughout this season, and yes, now by the halfway point they've caught up to the other backmarker / midfield teams, or lower midfield teams. And it won't be too long, they will be ahead of Toro Rosso and Alfa Romeo the way they're going. But anyway, we'll back to focusing on our side. We're 4th best now, and we should be able to challenge Red Bull this weekend. There's a lot of straights around Silverstone, so their Honda engine will be probably letting them down a bit around a track like this, but we'll find out when we get to the race. Let's get into qualifying.
It's time once again then for qualifying here at Silverstone, on what we're hoping will be a tight contest for pole position. Anthony Davidson, you've driven this circuit more than a few times in your career, and you've been around long enough to remember the pre-wing layout as well. But how do you like Silverstone in its current guise?
Well, the old circuit was a lot of fun, of course, but I do like the current layout. The reprofiled Abbey's faster than it used to be, and I always felt it was missing a sort of slow technical section. And now the corners up at Village and the Loop gives us that. So yeah, I'm a fan, and on top of that, I think it's created some more overtaking opportunities.
With the weather as it is today, Anthony Davidson, we have, to some extent, to throw the form book out of the window. Who do you see having the advantage on this slippery, unpredictable track surface?
The trouble is, Crofty, they need to be thinking about the race tomorrow. You don't want to go jacking up the ride heights and piling on a few points of extra downforce that you're not going to want in the Grand Prix itself. The Parc Fermé regulations mean that you have to make that choice. The best thing the drivers can do is adapt with the tools they have available in the cockpit. Moving the brake bias forward will help stop the rear end slipping out under braking, and opening up the differential can really help tame the oversteer on corner exit. The drivers that can make best use of these techniques will have the best chance for success here today.
Alright, so here we are for qualifying, and as you can see from the cutscene, it is raining, and it will not let up for this entirety of Q1. So I'm going to wait right until the end of the session So everyone will be blazing around the track, and hopefully it'll be dry enough for intermediate tyres by then, and hopefully we should be able to get through without too many issues. The indicator actually says intermediate tyres are faster already, so I know that some of the other cars are going out on wet tyres, so I think, I don't know, I'm not sure how this will go. My pace in these super wet conditions has never been fantastic.
Take it easy to start with. The track's wet.
But we don't need a miracle lap to get through, as we are coming out in a bunch of traffic. A teammate just went past there, and a bunch of other cars are leaving pit lane around us, so we need to manage that. There's cars on hot laps right now, but anyway, as we come to the end of our warm-up lap, we are catching up to Antonio Giovinazzi, and that is a car I can't afford to be stuck behind. He's a much slower car, the Alfa Romeo, third worst I think on the grid. So we need to get past him. We go down the inside into the Stowe corner and run in a little bit deep, but we crucially get past. But he's still on the right hand side, and he's actually fighting me for this track position. We can make a little bit of contact and turn ourselves around into a half spin across the front of his car, but we save it, and thankfully we are able to continue on with our lap with not too many issues. But Giovinazzi, I imagine, would not be too happy with that. Obviously that was kind of on us. We passed him and then tried to cut across him while he still had a bit of an overlap. It's not a race, he should have really just backed down. But anyway, as I'm still discussing that, we've started our lap a little bit narrow into this section of corners. I'm going to need to read off on what they're all called because I've completely forgotten. I believe that's Village, but I could be totally wrong. But anyway, we move on to the end of the lap, the club section, I know that one. And we complete our lap through the final few corners now. And
okay, there's 2 minutes left in this session and we're in the drop.
we are across the line. What are we going to get? P4. That came out of nowhere. How have we set that time? And Kimi Raikkonen's got the fastest time. What has happened in this session? We got beaten by Kimi Raikkonen, Pierre Gasly, which is somewhat understandable, and Devon Butler in the Haas. So none of the Mercedes or Ferraris are the cars ahead of us. So a really mixed up session. And by the look of this, it's definitely the wet tyre runners that struggled. Alexander Albon and George Russell knocked out on the intermediate tyres, with Nico Hülkenberg, Danny Kvyat and Robert Kubica also knocked out in Q1. Let's get into Q2. Alright, so here we are in Q2. Let's see what we can do. The rain has
I'd take a set of intermediates in these unpredictable conditions.
somewhat subsided to light rain, so that's not the right word to use at all. But anyway, it's light rain. The track conditions are intermediates at the moment, but we'll see how that evolves over the session. I'm probably going to do the same thing, wait till right at the last moment to see if we can get onto the slicks at the end. I'm not sure when the rain will clear up. It doesn't look like it'll be during this session, but I'm just waiting. And fast forwarding through the session, you can see constantly checking the delta, but it's not coming down at all. The track isn't drying, it's still raining out there, so it will be the intermediate tyres to run on in this session. Brand new set, so let's go out on track on these intermediate tyres and see what we can do.
Lap times are dropping. Looks like track conditions are starting to improve. All set. Everyone clear? Car to track.
Normally I would be a little bit worried that we're about to get screwed over by a bunch of people going out on slicks, but I don't think that's going to happen. The track conditions, there's no way they can improve that much. But that has happened in the past, where all of a sudden everyone goes out on slicks and smashes the lap record, or the best lap. But that's not going to happen this time. The track is still way too wet for that, so we're just going to go out and immediately run off the road on that pit exit. I don't know why it's not a hard pit exit, but it's hard for me. For some reason I've made so many mistakes on that pit exit in the past. But anyway, let's shake that off, get the mud off the tyres, get the styrofoam out of the front wing, I don't know.
2 minutes remaining in the session. We need a good lap here. We're out of qualifying.
And I have not set a lap yet, so this one, just like the first, will really need to count. And this time, we will need to put in a very good lap to get into Q3, because the AI in these intermediate conditions, it's a known thing in the F1 game, they are very, very good. But anyway, I'm not too worried about that as we get a little bit caught up with one of the McLarens there, and that has thankfully not ruined our lap. We've got enough time to get ourselves sorted again, but not what I need in my little sort of preparation phase. But we're holding up the car behind us, which is actually my teammate Sergio Perez, so he will not be impressed with this. So unfortunately that's something that we're just going to have to deal with as a team. But anyway, by the time we get onto the hangar straight, he's dropped back from us a little bit, so hopefully he can still get through on whatever lap time he's running. We ran a little bit wide through Stowe, but now into the club section we are hopefully going to get the rest of this lap together. This is a very tricky section of track in the dry, let alone in the rain, and there's the end of the session. We come across the line for P14, an absolute disaster. So also knocked out in this session is Kimi Raikkonen, Sergio Perez, Kevin Magnussen, myself, and then Daniel Ricciardo will be starting from P15. Top 10 still to be decided, but that's it for us. We need to get on with Formula 2 now, and then after that we'll get into the race.
Great work out there today. Let's have your thoughts. Your qualifying pace didn't put you at the front of the grid. Will this be a problem tomorrow?
Yeah, obviously we weren't expecting to be right at the front, but it is a bit disappointing to be back in P14, knocked out in Q2. But oh well, onwards and upwards.
The weather hasn't been ideal in qualifying. What's your take on it?
Yeah, it may have played a factor, but at the end of the day, I didn't get my best lap in. I didn't beat my teammates, so there was more time to find, even for both of us, I think.
Appreciate your time.
Thanks, Claire.
Obviously, I expected a better session, but these things happen from time to time. Try to make up for it in the race.
I'll try.
Welcome to Silverstone, one of the staples of the Formula 2 Championship. It's a firm favourite amongst fans and drivers alike, and we're all keen to see what it has in store for us in today's race. The 3.6 miles of the Silverstone circuit in Great Britain should be familiar to fans and drivers alike. Built upon the site of a World War II airbase, the track features 18 corners and some good opportunities to overtake at the end of the two DRS zones located on the Wellington and Hangar straights. I'm not the only one sitting here today who's looking forward to today's race. My friend and ex-GP2 champion Davide Valsecchi next to me is already on the edge of his seat awaiting the start of the event. How's it going today?
Hello there, Alex. I'm great, thank you, and very excited to get started. I have a feeling we are in for a very special event today.
With that then, let's run through the grid order. A sterling effort from Roberto Merri yesterday puts him on pole position, and starting alongside in P2 is Alexander Albon. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Norris, Russell, Jack Aitken, Ansette Camara, De Vries, Giotto, Delatraz, Maximilian Gunter, Latifi, Maney, Artem Markelov, and Fukuzumi, Makino, Cuoco, Galeo, and Dorian Boccolacci. Kari and Alessio Lorandi completes the grid. Now it's almost time to lights out, so let's go down to the track.
Right, let's be patient going into turn 1. We want to be in a good position for the rest of the race. Good luck.
Thanks, Jeff. That is the weirdest tyre strategy I've seen for a while. I think it's just because of the 2018 tyre colours, but if you saw that in F1 2018, you'd think that's mediums to hards, and that just looks wrong if that was on an F1 car. that was a very slow strategy to choose. But anyway.
The rest of the grid is forming up. Be patient and watch for the lights.
Enough waffling about tyre strategy. We have a race to get on with. So we are now ready on the grid, waiting for the lights to appear any moment now. There we go. Here we go. It's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 red lights. And away we go for the feature race here in Silverstone. And it is an absolutely dreadful start, and Alexander Albon is straight through on the right hand side, taking the lead into the first corner. But we've managed to hold second just about through turns 1 and 2, and that should be good enough. And we should be able to challenge Albon into the next section of corners if we get a good exit from here. But we get a pile of wheel spin, we've spun around and we've smashed into...
The virtual safety car has been deployed. We need to keep a positive delta here. Slow down,
up, Jeff.
maintain a positive delta.
We have smashed into Lando Norris just now, and he is out of the race. That is a terminal damage DNF for Lando Norris in this race. I will take full responsibility for that, but that is, well, that was a very clumsy mistake from me. Smashed into him, sent him flying off the road, and front wing off for me. Here's the onboard from poor Lando Norris, and he had no chance to avoid that. He came to a very sudden stop there. He didn't even hit anything. We'll see another angle in a moment, but that was a very weird way of stopping just there for Lando. Look at this, he just sort of stops. So that's a bit strange, but there's the onboard from George Russell. I'm having trouble keeping up at this point. Alexander Albon looking back, harder to see too much from that angle, but that is, well, that's just embarrassing really. That was a stupid mistake. I just put too much power down, lost the rear end.
We're adjusting the strategy.
And yeah, that was just a silly mistake. So I ran wide on the next corner immediately, as the lack of front wing tends to make you do that. I'm losing a bunch of positions, but I'm going to pit in on this lap anyway. There's no way you can continue with no front wing. So let's just get back to pit lane, get a new front wing on, hope for a safety car or something to possibly play into our hands later in this race.
But other than that, I don't see much coming out of this race. I struggle to see how we'll get points unless this is our only pit stop in the race.
Braking nice and early for the marks there, as the leaders, Alexander Albon, crosses the line. We're entering pit lane, so we're not too far behind, but we'll lose time with the front wing change, and with the penalty. That looked very weird. It's like he almost forgot that we had a penalty, and then almost I don't know. Anyway, this is going to be an absolute eternity in pit lane. Rear wheels are done, front wing is getting put on, front wheels are getting changed now. On they go, and then off we go. And that was potentially the most painful 18 and, well, 19 seconds of my life while I was stopped there. But I don't know what to do now. We've lost...
Only one stop to go, one stop left in this strategy.
We've lost 10 seconds at least in that pit stop phase, probably more, probably closer to 15. And well, I just don't know if we can gain anything from even finishing this race. But I'll give it my best shot. See if we can catch up to some of the back markers and make a race of it. But other than that, I don't see much coming out of this race. But we move on, and there is a little bit of hope because we do catch up to Antonio Fuoco, who has not made a stop yet. I don't believe he's on the white tyres. So something's gone drastically wrong with his race. He is incredibly slow. Like, I don't know. I've made a pit stop. I've lost my front wing and served a penalty, and I've passed him before he's made a stop. Something's gone horribly wrong for Fuoco in this race. But as we go past pit lane, there are some cars in pit lane, and Maximilian Günther comes out in front of us. He's on the defensive line there, so we're going to try and send it around the outside while his tyres are cold. We go to the inside of the next corner, and we get through on Maximilian Günther. Almost lose the rear end again there, but with some warmer tyres we managed to save at that time, and we get ahead of Maximilian Günther, and he has the cars behind to deal with. So we're actually currently sitting in P15 in this race, so things aren't looking too bad for us. We still have a good chance of at least getting a better starting position for the sprint race. So yeah, I think we will continue on. We won't make another stop and just pray and hope that these tyres make it to the end without falling off any kind of cliff. But anyway, the next car up ahead is Arjun Maini, as some more cars are in pit lane on the right hand side there, and let's see what position we get up to, as cars coming out right in front of us. Actually, that is Tadasuke Mikino right there, as we try to go around the outside of him. Can we do it? Arjun Maini is on the racing line. He's going to get held up by some people on cold tyres as well, so hopefully we might be able to jump both of them. But we do get around the outside to the inside of the next corner on Tadasuke Mikino, and we are up now into position 12. Arjun Maini is still up next, and he's putting big pressure on the car ahead of him. So let's see if we can do anything about Maini through this next section of corners. We go around the outside, but there's no grip out there. We couldn't get it done. Try to get a switch back onto the next section of track. Now heading towards Cops to see if we could have made a move there, but that was never going to happen. Couldn't get the run. It is very difficult to get a run into that corner, but it is possible. But we get a really nice run through Cops, and we go to the outside towards Maggots and Beckett, to the outside of Maggots, to the inside of the second corner, and we get through on Arjun Maini. That is, I'm not sure I've ever made a move there, but we have today, and that was a pretty good one. But anyway, the next car up ahead, Maini was just putting him under pressure. It's Ray for Kazumi. Let's see what we can do. Can we go to the inside of Stowe? We're going to go deep under brakes, and we will get that position for Kazumi's tyres. Still probably coming up to temperature at this point, and he's not had the same confidence there as we did. But anyway, next up is Jack Aitken. So let's see what we can do about him. He's a little way up the road, so let's get the head down, push on, and see what we can do. So now we eventually catch up to Jack Aitken. We're going to go to the inside of Stowe, and we get that move done on Jack Aitken. Next up is a bit of a train, which is tail-ended by Artem Markelov. So let's try to catch the train. So now we move on, and we have caught the train, the Markelov train, as it currently is. So let's see what we can do. We get DRS on the Wellington straight. So let's see if we can make a move on Markelov. He's defending, so we have to go to the outside. He's not leaving us the option on the inside. We go around the outside of Markelov, and we are clear, trying to go around the outside of Latifi almost there. But Markelov comes back around the outside of Luffield, and he might actually get that position back as we run a bit wide there, and he does. So a good switch back by Markelov there to get back in front. But towards Cops, we might just get a run. We're on the inside, and we've got a brake later down the inside. We missed the apex by a couple of car widths there, but Markelov does well, leaves the space for us, and we get through. And next up is Latifi. We go down the inside into the club section, but the gap is sort of narrowing there, and had to back out of it. I wasn't sure exactly how well the car was going to turn up on the inside curb, but we have actually a really good run out of that last corner. And I had a half think about a move into the first corner, but I had to pull out of it and pull out of the first corner entirely to avoid any collisions there, because Latifi was always going to turn across. I couldn't go for the dive, so I just abandoned the corner, but that's cost us a bunch of time. So we need to catch the train once again. And now, once again, we have caught the train into the first two corners, and through turn 2 we get a really good run on Latifi down the inside into Village, and we should just about get that move done unless he holds around the outside, which he does, and he sends it into the loop and actually just about squeezes us out of road, mostly leaves us a space there, but gets the move done through entry. But we've got the DRS on the Wellington straight, and we might be able to make a move into Brooklands like we did before, but we couldn't quite get close enough trying to get the switch back towards Luffield. You can see we've taken a really wide line on exit, but I've turned in just a little bit too sharp, and that sort of ruined the nice flow we had through that corner. So now we look back from Luca Giotto's car, and this is another move we tried to make on Latifi. This is not a replay, it does look very much the same though, and this time we hold it round the outside of the loop section, and Latifi squeezes us out once again, but this time we're much closer behind him. We got the DRS along the Wellington straight, we're sitting right behind him in the slipstream now, and we go to the outside of Brooklyn, send a big dive around the outside, and we get the move done to the inside of Luffield. We're not going to run wide this time, we're going to make sure we hold it tight to the inside line. And
you're probably feeling quite a bit of tyre wear about now. Stay out as long as you're quick, but there's probably not much left in them.
Cheers, Jeff. We got that move done pretty well there. But anyway, the next car up ahead is actually our teammate Luca Giotto. We were just looking back from his car before, but the tyres are wearing out, and we still have a way to go in this race. So hopefully that issue does not eventuate into a puncture as we try to sneak around the outside of Giotto. You're going to have to get up pretty early in the morning to pull that one off. But he actually gets a pretty bad run out of the Luffield section, and we go for a dive into Cops. I'm struggling to remember corner range at this point, but we get that done on Giotto. Next up, we are getting blocked in a little bit there by Louis Delatraz, but let's see if we can get a good run out of the final corner and onto the main straight. Not quite there. There's no DRS, even though this is technically F2 2018, but anyway, there was a DRS zone here in 2018, but I don't know, maybe the F2 cars didn't have it. But we get a really good run on Delatraz, just like we did on this TV, down the inside, and we absolutely send at that time, make sure they can't hold it around the outside, and we get the move done on Delatraz. But anyway, while I'm talking to a computer, we have caught up to Sergio Sede camera, and I haven't actually talked about what position I'm in for a while, but we are actually up into position 5 right now. So this is been a really good comeback, and I'm very surprised that we still have any pace on the older tyres in this race, but that just shows how much they don't wear out. And we also have the fastest lap at this point, but we're just trying to stick as close as we can behind Sergio Sedecamera through Maggots and Beckett's, trying to get a run on the hanger straight, and we're going to go to the outside maybe, and we do get there along the outside, down the outside into Stowe. Can we get it pulled up and make the corner? We just about keep it on the track there and around the outside of Sedecamera, but that was on the limit around the outside there, but we get the move done up into P4. Next up is Nick de Vries, and this is Alessio Lorandi out of the race with a smoking engine, and that is a disappointment for him. I'm not sure where he was running, but probably out of the points anyway. So we need to focus on getting through Maggots and Beckett's as best we can and see what we can do into Stowe. But through Cops we get a decent run through there. We're going to be right behind into Maggots and Beckett's. I don't want to be that close. That's just asking for front wing damage. So we back it off a little bit, give him a little bit of space, now try to get a good exit from Maggots and Beckett's, and we have the DRS going to get a good run towards Stowe along the hanger straight. We're going to go to the inside, down the inside, and we should get that move done on Nick de Vries, just about missing the apex there, but we get the move done. The game has been telling me to pit for a while, but we're not going to. We're going to stay on these tyres to the end or until they explode, because if we pit, that undoes all of the hard work we've just done. So anyway, we're now up onto the podium in this race. That is insane.
Final lap of the race.
We've been disqualified.
Here they are then, coming into Parc Fermé. What an excellent win for the Dams team. And Davide Valsecchi, give me your thoughts. How did they accomplish this result?
It was down to one thing: consistent pace over everyone else out there on the track. We could spend a great deal of time talking about race and chariot strategy, what else occurred on the track, but at the end of the day, the difference here was down to simply being faster on track than everyone else. Amazing skill on show.
Dams, another team with a huge amount of history based right in the heart of motorsport near Le Mans in France, have once again shown their formidable abilities out on the track with yet another win today. And now, let's take a look at the drivers' standings. Alexander Albon takes the lead of the Drivers' Championship. And now, Davide Valsecchi, let me ask you, who is your driver of the day?
It's got to be Artem Markelov. He was fast, decisive, everything you want from a top-class driver.
And here's how things are shaping up in the Teams' Championship. Dams move further ahead at the top of the standings. Meanwhile, Prema have improved their position. A strong weekend for them as they fight their way to the top. Goodbye for now then. But we really are just getting started. Make sure you join us again for Lights Out tomorrow.
Well, that happened. I don't know. I guess there must be a rule that you can't pit on the first lap. That's what it must be. I don't know. I don't know the Formula 2 rules, but anyway. We didn't pit under VSC. I know that's not allowed. I saw that message, but I'm not sure exactly what the rule that we broke was. But if anything, I'll take the disqualification for the collision with Norris anyway. It was a stupid mistake, and well, we probably certainly didn't deserve the podium after doing that. But I don't know. That is so disappointing. We made the comeback from last place, got all the way back up onto the podium. Probably maybe had the difficulty a bit low for that to be possible, but you know, it drove so well through the rest of that race, and then as we went on to the last lap, got disqualified. So I don't know what to think about that. We just have to move on to the sprint race, I guess. So let's get on with it.
Okay, be wary of the cars ahead braking suddenly into one. We could ruin our race if we hit them. Good luck.
Alright, thanks Jeff. Let's just get this over and done with. It's going to be wet for the entire race, so that changes the dynamic very much. If it was a dry race, I would think we have a good chance of points, but in the rain I'm not as confident in the F2 cars, so this could get very interesting. That is Lando Norris right there. If anything, I want to beat him in this race. We're both starting from the back, so it's a last question mark for both of us as we now go to 5 red lights. And away we go for a soggy sprint race in Silverstone. How many S's do you want in your F2 races? And let's get some wheels spin, and off we go through the soaked first couple of corners. I'm going to stop with the S's now. That's what I should have called it, the first S corner. Anyway, let's what am I doing? I'm taking it easy through the first sector or so, let the AI sort themselves out, and I will make moves later on when there's a little bit more time to think about things, when some of the mist sort of settles down a bit, the field's a bit more spread out, and immediately actually we're caught up to Alessio Lorandi. We go around the outside into Maggots and Beckett's, and we completely miss those corners, and we rejoin at Beckett's behind Lorandi, and it's a step forward and a step back. So now we move on, we're caught up to Lorandi again. I think this is through Woodcut, and we're going to make a move into Copse down the inside, and this time we get through cleanly on Alessio Lorandi. Next up is Lando Norris, and then ahead of him is a battle between Antonio Fuoco, who is I think had found his speed back in this race. I'm not sure what was going on in the last one, but he seems to be putting the pressure on Nico Kari ahead of him. But Lando Norris is being held up, so that's convenient for me. So we go down the inside from a long way back on Lando Norris, give him a little bump on the way past as we maybe were slightly wider than what I might have wanted, but we were very deep into that corner to try to pass him. But now we're going to dive down the inside of Fuoco, and at the same time we're going to get Kari as well, 2 for the price of 1 at the club section, where I said it can be difficult to overtake. But Kari was very cautious on the brakes there, and we were able to pass both of them because of that. Maybe he was braking early, trying to defend, I'm not sure what he was doing.
Gap to car in front is 4.8 seconds. They're on old wets. Their tyres are 12 laps old. They have some kind of mechanical problem. The time last lap was a 2.8. You're gaining by 0.3 a lap. Good work.
So the next car up ahead is Tadasuke Makino, and he has some kind of mechanical issue, so let's see what we can do. We should catch up to him fairly easily in that case, so let's put in some good sectors and see if we can catch him.
Gap to teammate ahead is 18.5 seconds.
We've got a lot of work to do. Anyway, we've now caught up to a bit of a train, which is tail-ended by Makino as we go down the inside, and we get the move done on Tadasuke Makino. Have to leave a bit of space on the right. I wasn't really sure where he was, if we actually cleared him or not, but we get that move done on Makino, and the next car up ahead is Dorian Boccalacci, so let's try to catch him. And we've caught up to Boccalacci. Let's see if we can make a move into Maggots and Beckett's around the outside. We go for the dive, and this time we somehow make the corner at Maggots through Beckett's a lot more steadily, and somehow we've made that move on Boccalacci. Next up is Sean Galeo. So now we've caught up to Sean Galeo. Can we make a move? Late move into the club section, just missing the back of Maximilian Günther there. But we've gotten through on Sean Galeo. A lot of wheel spin there as we were trying to get through.
16.0 seconds.
Trying to get through the final corner, and Luca Giotto with another mechanical failure in this series. What does this guy need to do to finish a weekend? Unbelievable. He was I don't know at this point. I don't know. Anyway, we get past Maximilian Günther, while we're battling away with him through Maggots and Beckett's, and he actually gets back through. So not quite getting through on Günther there. Obviously there's no DRS in these conditions. Probably don't really need to point that out. But we go down the inside of Günther into the club section. So in the rainy conditions, it seems this is a much better overtaking opportunity for me. But we spin around, and right at the last minute we lose another position to Günther. Here's the onboard from Günther. He did a good effort from Günther to actually come to a stop there and not make contact with us. But we cross the line.
That's the end of the race. We'll see you in Parc Fermé.
P12 could have been 11th, but there's really no difference.
It's a well-deserved victory for Dams then, after that breathtaking race. Davide, what do you think made the difference here?
What can I say? In conditions like this, it's an incredible difficult drive, but they pulled off something truly special today. They had the grip when they needed. Every time they were able to find just the right line, and they had the confidence to put those things together and just push and push. That's what earned them this victory today.
And I can see our drivers making their way out now. It's been a sublime team performance, and it's the culmination of a lot of hard work. Dams are your winners today.
So another win for Dams. Nicholas Latifi, race winner there. Artem Markelov P2. and I believe that's Louis Delatraz in third. So fair play to them, but just disappointing.
After this round of the World Championship, here's how things look in the drivers' table. It's a good result for Alexander Albon, who moves further ahead at the top of the table. And so, driver of the day then, Davide Valsecchi, who do you think you'd go for?
I have to give it to Roberto Meri. Was probably one of his best drive of the season, and I was very impressed.
On to the teams then. Dams move further ahead at the top of the standings. Meanwhile, Carlin moved up the table with another strong performance this weekend. It was great having you with us for this weekend. I hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. We'll see you when Formula 2 returns.
Thanks, alright. Let's just get into F1. That was a weekend to forget.
We're right back where it all began. The very first World Championship Grand Prix was held here at Silverstone in 1950, with Giuseppe Farina taking the top step of an all-Alfa Romeo podium. He earned 9 championship points that day on his way to the inaugural title. His winning total at the season's end, just 30 points. My, how times have changed. So let's see who can reach the top step of the modern podium today. Straddling the border of Northamptonshire and Buckinghamshire, the 18 corners of the Silverstone circuit form the 3.6-mile beating heart of Formula 1. It's been reinvented over the years, with Turn 1 now the fast right-hander of Abbey, but the magic of racing is as strong here as it's ever been. And it's an absolute pleasure to be joined once again by Anthony Davidson. Let me ask you about Racing Point. What do you make of their performance so far this season?
Well, the atmosphere within that team seems very positive at the moment. Everyone seems like they're in great spirits and having a lot of fun doing what they do, and that's definitely contributed to the performances we've seen.
With the race minutes away from starting, here's what today's grid rundown looks like. Lewis Hamilton lines up on pole position, and it's Charles Leclerc in P2. As we continue through the rest of the grid today, we have Bottas, Verstappen, Sebastian Vettel and Butler, Weber, Norris, Giovinazzi and Kimi Raikkonen, Perez, Magnussen, the scientist and Gasly, Albon, Russell, Nico Hülkenberg and Robert Kubica, Ricciardo and Daniel Kvyat completes the grid. Now it's almost time to lights out, so let's go down to the track.
Okay, this is the team's home race. We're all relying on you to impress today.
So it hasn't been an ideal weekend so far. Bad qualifying, bad F2 races, but we're going to turn it all around in this one. We'll have a good race. It's all clear. We've had pace, so let's just put the rest of the weekend behind us and get into it.
Keep an eye on the lights. The start sequence will begin as soon as the grid is formed.
Alright, thanks Jeff. We've got 5 red lights. And it's lights out and away we go for the British Grand Prix. And it's a pretty good start by myself, Magnussen and Sergio Perez, all looking for some spaces into the first corner, but I don't find any. Perez blocks me off and then Magnussen cuts in front of me very aggressively there. I had a half think about a dive down the inside of Magnussen into Village, but that was never going to work. I tried to get the switch back through the loop and get a run onto the Wellington straight, but that was never going to happen. So Magnussen holds on in the Renault, and I have to say, to be fair to him, he out-qualified Daniel Ricciardo this time. I remember in the last round in Austria, obviously his first race in the Renault, and he was a little bit off of Ricciardo's pace, but he may have unlocked some of the secrets of that car. So we'll see how the rivalry between those two plays out over the next few races.
Alright, let's focus now for the rest of the race.
And I should mention as well, we've been elevated a position already by Pierre Gasly's grid penalty. So we've already up into P13 despite holding our grid position off the start. But I couldn't really get a run through any of those corners on Magnussen. I was hoping to maybe make a move on him by now. But it looks like I'm going to have to wait until DRS to try anything on Magnussen because he's very quick out of the corners, it seems, and I just can't get a run on him anywhere really. So let's just try to focus on just sticking as close as we can to the back of Magnussen, because we need to start making some overtakes in this race. We have a lot of cars to pass to catch up to Max Verstappen, but I don't think we will be rivaling him in this race. We need to be starting right at the front if we have a chance of beating the Red Bulls. But if we can get to P6 in this race, that is the ultimate target. But I have to say also that Weber and Butler are both up there on the grid near the front, and they will be very difficult to catch. They are both two very fast drivers. So maybe the target will be to see if we can catch up to them in this race. We'll see.
Okay, entering lap 3 now. DRS has been enabled.
But now, as I said, we've got DRS, so we might be able to make a move on Magnussen. But just as DRS is enabled, we managed to get a dive into Village and around the outside of the loop, and we might just get that done. We do. So just as DRS gets enabled, we don't even need it to get the move on Magnussen, but we will use it to pull away once we've got that move made. And now we can try to focus.
Gearbox wear, try to keep your number of shifts to a minimum.
Gearbox wear, obviously this is the 6th race on our gearbox as we go down the inside of Sergio Perez into Stowe with the DRS as assistance there, and we get that move done. But this is the 6th race on this gearbox, so it is getting a bit worn at this point. I've got the general maintenance upgrade, but I don't have any additional upgrades to the gearbox wear, so I'll be needing to invest in that in the future maybe, but for now we're just going to have to work around it. I'm basically just going to ignore it and hope the problem doesn't eventuate into any kind of failure or issues. But anyway, we'll worry about the issues if they happen. Hopefully we don't get jammed in gear or drop any gears throughout this race. But firstly, we just need to keep making the positions, so if there are any issues we have a bit of a cushion to hopefully still score some points. But we go around the outside of Kimi Raikkonen through left field, and he's not quite going to leave us the space there, but we were not going to back out of that. We go, as Raikkonen almost goes off the road there, we go to the inside of Copse, but backed out of that one. He was, I was 99% sure he was shutting the door there, so we backed out of it, and now we will use our DRS on the hanger straight to try to overtake Kimi Raikkonen. Sergio Perez was getting involved for a moment there, but I think we just blocked him off, and we have a half dive there on Raikkonen, but we don't make that one stick. So now we're actually under fire from Sergio Perez once again. So I'm looking in a lot of directions here. The Alphas in front are certainly slow, and I think Lando Norris ahead of them. So we move on now, and we are still stuck behind Kimi Raikkonen. Giovinazzi and Norris are still battling away up ahead. We go for a dive down the inside of Kimi Raikkonen, but we just can't quite get the move done, and we have to sit behind him for a little bit longer. So we move on again, and we are trying to get a good run out of Maggots and Beckett's, and we've got the DRS this time, and we're right behind Raikkonen. We're going to try to get a bit of slipstream. Norris and Giovinazzi are side by side up ahead, but there was not really any space to go for a move. If I went for a big dive, I would have run into the back of Giovinazzi. But we get a good run out of Stowe down the inside of Raikkonen into the club section, and we get the move done around the outside, and we just did hold onto it over the curb there. And Raikkonen is still right behind us. He's looking down the inside into the first corner. I left some space there just in case he was going to take it, but he slots in behind, and we finally move up in this race into what is currently P10. But Lando Norris and Giovinazzi are still battling away up ahead. So we move on now, and Lando Norris and Giovinazzi still battling away this time. They are side by side into Brooklands, and through Luffield. We're going to try to get a good run and see if we can flick to the inside. Giovinazzi's held up massively, and we managed to pull alongside and get the move done on Giovinazzi. Here's a replay from off board, and you can see the different line that I took there. Switch to the inside, just avoiding the back of Giovinazzi there. Lucky to get away with that without taking off the front wing on his right rear wheel there. But look at that, Kimi Räikkönen trying to make it 3 wide. Lando Norris getting away a little bit with all of the battling going on behind him. But finally we managed to get ahead of the Alphas as Räikkönen is trying to challenge Giovinazzi around the outside into Maggott and Beckett, but he has to pull out of it, and Giovinazzi holds on. But crazy battling in the midfield here. But thankfully we get through unscathed, and now we can try to make a move on Lando Norris down the inside into Stowe, and we get, not quite actually, he gets back around the outside. I was about to say we get it done, but not quite on that occasion. So we come at him into Stowe once again, a very similar looking pass down the inside into Stowe once again, but we go a bit deeper this time and make sure that we get the move done. Next up is a certain Devon Butler, so we'll have to watch out for him, but he's a little way up the road, so let's get the head down and push on and try to catch up to him. So now we've caught up to Devon Butler. Let's try to get a nice run through Maggott and Beckett. Actually, we had a good run through Copse, and we draw alongside, round the outside into Maggott and Beckett. Through Maggott, we get through on the inside, run a little bit wide, and he's challenging side by side through Beckett, but we get the lead on that little battle. But here's a replay, and nice little flick to the right hand side there to avoid running into the back of Butler, and we just had such a good run out of Stowe. May have cheesed Maggots a bit there. I will never say cheesed Maggots. That's something I don't want to think about. Anyway, my goodness, what is this episode? But Butler's coming back at us now to the inside towards Stowe, and he's actually ahead. We're going to try and hold it around the outside, but we've run a little bit wide, and we're going to have to give the spot back to Devon Butler. Unfortunately, I'm not going to gain the position. That would be a legal overtake. So we've given the spot back, and we will try once again to re-overtake him later on in this race. So we move on through Maggott and Beckett once again, and we might have cheesed it again through the first part of that section. We get the DRS onto the hangar straight. Now can we get in the slipstream, get the momentum, and swing it to the inside to go down the inside of Stowe, down the inside, and we get the move done cleanly that time, and hopefully now we can stay ahead of Devon Butler. But he comes back at us on the Wellington straight down the inside, and we actually have a little bit of a touch into Brooklands there, but Devon Butler very lucky there not to get any major damage from that. But he's just not going to give up. He goes down the inside into Stowe and gets the position back. So like I said, Butler and Weber are both very fast drivers in this game, so they are very difficult once you start battling with them. I've had it all season battling with Butler, with Weber, and even with my teammate, and they are all very tough competitors. But thankfully I think now we've done enough. We should be able to get away through this next couple of corners, and hopefully he won't be close enough to make another move into Brooklands like he did before. But we need to just focus on the exit here. We get a nice one, and that should be us sealed away up into the next position, P7. Next up is Lucas Weber, so let's go and
like
try and chase him down.
They're retiring the car. Some information on Norris.
And Lando Norris out of the race, and that is a mechanical failure, holding up the field a little bit there as he was pulling off. But that is another retirement for Lando Norris in this weekend.
Weber is ahead of you. They're on old softs. Their tyres are 17 laps old. We think they've got one more stop. The time last lap was a 1 minute 35.9. You're gaining by 1/10 a lap. Okay, gap ahead is 15.0 seconds. We're leading our teammate by 7.1 seconds.
So we're gaining on Weber by a 10th a lap. I'm going to need to lift my game a bit if we're going to catch up to him by the end of the race. His a long way ahead. He's been absolutely flying in his McLaren. So obviously the McLaren is a very competitive car. So we're just going to need to try extra hard to catch up to him.
Front is 14.7 seconds. We're approaching the pit window. You'll be on the mediums. The battery is low on energy. Reduce ERS deployment. The gap to the car ahead is 15.2 seconds. You've lost access to one of the gears. We've lost one of the gears due to a fault.
Oh, that's what I was hoping would not happen in this race. It looks like it's second gear that's missing. Just looking at that corner, it went straight from first to third.
In this lap,
But
push now.
the important thing is, and what is very lucky about this situation, two very lucky things, is second gear. If you want a gear to go missing, you probably want it to be probably first, second or eighth, because 3 through 7 are the ones that are important and will cost you the most time if you lose them, in my opinion. So it's not the end of the world, and also we're pitting on this lap, and quite often those issues with missing gears and alike will get resolved in pit lane. So with any luck, that will be the last of the issues for this race, and yeah, if we're lucky, we'll get through the rest of the race with no issues, and it shouldn't really cost us anything major. So let's just see how this rest of this race goes. It's a little bit concerning now that the issues have arisen, but it could be a lot worse at this point. Luckily we didn't get stuck in gear. That is the worst option of all the different kind of...
Remember, box this lap. Keep an eye on your distance to the speed limit line as you approach, and make sure you don't speed.
That's the worst of all the scenarios if you're starting to have gearbox issues, is if you're stuck in gear. If your gear shifts are slow, that you can deal with it, but if you're stuck in gear, that just sucks. But we don't have that, as we smashed the pit board on the way in. I knew I was in a little bit deep into going into pit lane, so I didn't want to put any steering angle into the car, because I knew that would sort of reduce the braking performance. But anyway, wheels off, wheels on, away we go, and that looked like a pretty decent stop. 2.2 seconds, not the best, but well within the range of a good stop. That makes no sense.
That was our last stop. No more scheduled pit stops.
Thanks, Jeff. Alright, let's get out of here as we almost cross the white line there. Pile of clean air around us. So now we just have to push on for the rest of this race and see if we can do anything to close that gap to Lucas Weber. But it's a big gap. So let's see what we can do.
Our gap to the car in front is 7.6 seconds.
That's irrelevant because pit stops.
Our gap behind is 2.5 seconds.
Jeff, what are you doing? There's pit stops going on. Those gaps aren't going to mean anything at all whatsoever. But anyway, as the pit stops are happening, we get our P7 back and we can see Lucas Weber on the timing screens once again. So let's push on and see if we can catch him.
P7 now. P7. Weber is ahead of you. Okay. Gap ahead is 15.4 seconds. They're on fresh mediums. Butler behind. Okay. The gap behind is 2.9 seconds. They're on fresh mediums. Pit strategy complete. See these tyres through to the end now. 29 laps to go. The gap to the car ahead is 12.8 seconds. Okay, gap ahead is 11.7 seconds.
And this is Daniel Ricciardo retiring from the race in his Renault. I'm not sure where he was running, what his chance of points were in this one, but a disappointing end to the day for him. And that is not a happy sounding Renault engine. Pile of smoke coming out of it. DNF for Daniel Ricciardo.
You're pushing too hard. It's causing your gearbox to take increased wear.
So my solution to these issues is just to drive as if there's nothing wrong with the car, because if it's going to break, it's going to break. There's nothing I can really do about it. I know you can limit the number of shifts and all that sort of stuff, but if it's going to break, it's going to break. So I'm just going to push on maximum speed and try to catch Weber. That was a fastest lap. I don't know where that came from. I mean, we've set some purple middle sectors, which might have something to do with cheesing maggots. But anyway, we need to try to catch up to Weber and hope that we don't get any more gearbox issues.
Gap to car in front is 10.2 seconds. Battery charge is low. If we turn down the ERS deployment, we can harvest more energy. Gap to the car ahead is 9.6 seconds. 21 laps to go.
Am I the only one who thinks that sounds amazing? Also, can someone explain this? What on earth was that? I mean, I slowed it down there, but I'm not really sure that helps. Like, what on earth is going on there? That's not something the recording did. That was live in the game. I saw that happening in front of my eyes, and I had no clue what was happening. It was so weird. But anyway, if someone can explain what on earth that was, that would be amazing.
Okay, we should be good on tyres for a while. The wear doesn't seem too bad at the moment. Just take care when you load them up. Our gap to the car in front is 7.8 seconds. There is a gap of about 7 seconds between you and the car ahead. Okay, gap ahead is 7.0 seconds.
I'd call that exactly 7 seconds.
Weber's just ahead. Push for the position. They're on old mediums. Their tyres are 14 laps old. The time last lap was a 1 minute 35.1. You're closing by 0.4 per lap. Gap to car in front is 6.6 seconds. 16 laps to go. The gap to the car ahead is 5.6 seconds.
So as we set a purple middle sector, I thought I would just jump in and say hello again. I feel like I haven't said anything for a while in this video. Anyway, we're heading towards the finish line, see if we can set a personal best. We've lost our fastest lap, the purple, and our name is gone. So let's see, can we take it back? Personal best, but not a fastest lap. But we are gaining on Weber, and we may just close up to him towards the end of the race, so let's see.
Increase ERS deployment. It's time to use some of this charge. Okay, at the current pace and fuel settings, we won't have enough fuel for the end of the race. Consider lowering the fuel mix.
Nah. So when I first saw this car ahead of me now, I did briefly think it was Weber, but I quickly realised that he was going way too slow for that, and it's just Andy Kvyat not having the best race this weekend. I think he's more or less in last place, and he gets the blue flags and moves out the way safely. So back to focusing on trying to catch Lucas Weber, still a few seconds up the road.
Their tyres are 17 laps old. The time last lap was a 1:34.9. You're closing in by 0.7 per lap. Our gap to the car in front is 3.8 seconds. We're leading our teammate by 34.1 seconds. Okay, gap ahead is 3.3 seconds. Just a reminder, we are critical on fuel, probably a lap or so short. We don't need to risk a DNF chasing records, so think about going down to mix 1 and lifting early into the corners. The battery is low on energy. Reduce ERS deployment. Gap to car in front is 1.6 seconds.
And that little noise means we have the DRS off of Lucas Weber, and we can start saving some of the fuel that we've been burning to try to catch up to him. And once we've done that, we will go for a move, try to overtake him, and take P6 in this race if we can pull that off. But we really desperately need to save some fuel now. Alright, so now we have caught up to Lucas Weber, we've saved the fuel we need, and we can try now to overtake him. And he's defending quite awkwardly into the club section, and we run into the back of him there, as I wasn't really sure where to go. Here's the onboard from looking at the front wing of my car, and he was just in a bit of an awkward spot, and I just went into the corner deeper than he did, but thankfully we got away with no damage there, and we continue our fight with Weber through to the end of this race now. And we've got the DRS heading towards Brooklands on the Wellington Straight. We go almost down the outside, but he only left that door 99% open. But
gap to teammate behind is 45.4 seconds.
We are smashing Sergio Perez in this race. Wow, that's kind of insane. But anyway, we got a good run. Can we do anything into Cops? Not quite. Didn't quite have the confidence there. You can't just sort of send it like you can in the F2 cars. Same here into Maggots and Beckett. We are right behind Lucas Weber. But again, I didn't want to go through there too close behind him. So we're just going to bide our time and get the DRS towards Stowe. And let's see if we can get the slipstream along the Hangar Straight. We've got a lot of
laps of fuel remaining.
Got a lot of overspeed. We're nearing the end of the race. We go down the inside of Weber, miss the apex completely, and run wide. Weber gets us back, but we're going to fight back into the club section down the inside, and we should hold on to the next few corners, and that is us up into P6, the best of the rest position. I have no clue what's going on with Gasly. Here's the replay of the move. Weber had a lock-up, and that's probably what gave me the position in the end, because he lost actually quite a lot of time there. Here's the onboard. You can hear the lock-up there, and he could have done a switchback quite easily. He almost did, even with the lockup. But if not, he could have got us back there. But he is too far back here. We're going to just defend a little bit, because I wasn't really sure where he was. But run myself wide a little bit, so that's a mistake I really didn't need to make, and he's on the outside. So he's pressuring me into a couple of little mistakes here.
Final lap of the race.
but we hold him off on that occasion. We move on now to the final lap of the race, and if we can survive this, we will come home for P6 in this race. So let's just try to not make any mistakes, stick to the racing line, and get through. Let's see if we can get a good exit out of the loop onto the Wellington Straight. He's too far back. We won't need to worry about him, and we can take our own line through Brooklands and Luffield. I'm finally remembering the names of these corners. So it's been a really good comeback in this race, starting 13th, I believe, after Gasly got his penalty. Just randomly wandering off the road there, don't worry about that. And that's actually allowed Weber to catch up a little bit, but hopefully we won't need to worry about him too much. But yeah, starting P13, getting up to P6, passing Weber in the last few laps. So it's been a really good comeback in this race. It would have been nice to see if we started near the front, if we had any answer to Verstappen's pace. But I guess we'll never know until next round if we can take it to the Red Bulls yet. But overall, it's been a pretty good race and a good comeback from bad qualifying. So now we come around the final corner and cross the line for P6.
Alright, race over. Take care of the car on the way in.
So Mercedes have won it, and what a great race it was. Tell me, Ant, how did they manage to achieve this win?
Well, I think it was clear what the main contributing factor out on the track was today: speed. I know it sounds like an obvious thing to say, Crofty, but fast cars win races, and we saw that today with our winner.
After an excellent performance at the Grand Prix, I'm sure there'll be plenty of celebrations tonight amongst the Mercedes team, and they certainly deserve it.
So Lewis Hamilton, Charles Leclerc and Valtteri Bottas is the podium for the British Grand Prix. Lewis Hamilton winning his home race. Charles Leclerc doing a really nice job actually to at least beat one of the Mercedes. But Ferrari will need something special for the rest of the season if they want to beat Mercedes in this championship.
And now let's take a look at the driver's standings. It's a great result for Lewis Hamilton, who moves further ahead at the top of the table. Some amazing talent out on the track today. But Anthony, who would you pick as your driver of the day?
I have to give it to the scientists.
Yay.
They pushed and pushed and found some fantastic performance. It was just a pleasure to watch.
It's time to see how things are shaping up in the Constructors' Championship. Mercedes continue to extend their lead. Well, Ant, an end to another fantastic weekend of racing. Thanks to everyone who joined us, and we'll see you for the next one.
So, it is a double podium for Mercedes. Vettel bringing in fourth, Verstappen fifth place, but a little way ahead of us. But Butler and Weber both in the fight today. Sergio Perez took a little longer to get through the traffic, but he did in the end, finishing P9. But Kimi Räikkönen rounding out the top 10, so a really good race by him to achieve that. Gasly only getting up to P12, so really not a good race by Gasly at all, gaining all of 2 positions. But anyway, that is for Red Bull to discuss with him about how that race, where that race went wrong, because well, he should have been coming through the field with me. The Red Bull car it should be faster than the Racing Point, even around a track like this. I know I said that it should suit our car, but I mean, look where Verstappen was. So Gasly really underperforming this weekend. But anyway, now looking at what am I saying? The British Grand Prix. Looking at the championship, we have maintained our position ahead of Verstappen, despite him beating us today.
Amazing performance out there. I'm sure you're pretty happy with that.
Yes, I am very happy.
You really cut your way through the field today. What was your strategy?
Well, I didn't really have anything special planned. I just pushed as hard as I could.
There wasn't much between you and Lucas by the finish today.
No, it was a very, very close race between us, and we had a massive gap to make up after the first pit stop, but we managed to close it in and make the move in the last few laps. It was a lot of fun.
Appreciate your time.
Thanks, Claire. So one crazy race, and not so much in action. There wasn't really too much going on, but in terms of how much I enjoyed driving it, it was a lot of fun to just keep pushing and chipping away, and the time just kept coming and coming, and just to catch up in the last few laps, it sort of just worked, and yeah, it was a lot of fun, very, very satisfying to make that move in the last 4 or 5 laps or so. But we get almost 2,000 resource points in total now, so we should be able to get some good upgrades on the car for the next round in Germany, as I'm getting distracted by the sound effects.
That's exactly the kind of result I'm looking for. Keep it up.
But anyway, thanks Emma. We need to look at upgrades now. The crew are happy with that race. But looking at the upgrades, had a brief look at the aero side, but we're still pretty good on that front, and I'm more inclined to work on the chassis now that we've unlocked a whole bunch of upgrades available now. So I'm thinking I'll do the one on the right, because that will unlock the next major upgrade. So that will be on for Germany. They're all minor upgrades, so I could choose any of them. They'll all be on for the next round. But I will also do a department efficiency upgrade to make it a little bit cheaper. So I'll do both of those, and that should give us a little boost into the next round. So there is the department efficiency. They are actually very expensive, 1400 resource points, and that's only the third one. But I did actually do the maths once, and it is worth getting every single one of them if you do it early on. But I'm not entirely sure about the other ones. Couldn't afford the Gearbox wear upgrade, so we'll have to get that in Germany. But we should be looking good. For the next round. We have another upgrade on the car, so let's just enjoy the highlights of the races today. I couldn't get the highlights of the feature race because I got disqualified, and you don't get a highlights reel for that. So we just got the F2 sprint race, and after that the F1 race. So enjoy that. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next episode for the German Grand Prix. Goodbye.